Okay, hi, round two. So, if you're new to seeing this I am Mira Spitzer. I've posted in this group before, and I just posted a stems and bases video for any tips and tricks I might have for these big vacation school, Bible school, magnified flowers. So, brief overview, this is what we're working with. This is what we've been making. They're massive and very tall. Some of them aren't finished, obviously. I'm almost 6 feet tall. And I kind of feel like I'm in Alice in Wonderland. Anyway, so, have a different post with the bases and the stems, how we've gotten there, the tools you'll need, spray paint colors, different things like that. This video is going to be just flowers. I asked in the last one if anybody wanted some tips and tricks on them. It's still obviously uploading. I just figured I'd make it to have it on file in case we needed it. So, and I am sorry, I am like the most squirrel-brained person, especially now. What I'm going to be showing you is kind of how I've made mine. One thing I really like about ours is they have a shish kebab skewer base. So that's how you connect them into your pipe. You just pop them right in. So how I've been achieving this is I get a piece of scrap cardboard. You want it fairly strong if possible, if you can choose. You want a pretty thick ply. This is just from like a food subscription box. It's pretty doggone strong. So I've been cutting them to be about an 8-inch round circle. Smaller's fine, bigger's fine. If you want to make them really big, you can use the same tips I'm going to show you and just continue on with it. I have found this size to be pretty adequate. So you're going to start with your base. It does not matter which side's up. You're going to have all that covered anyway. Okay, you're going to want a skewer, one of our bamboo skewers. I've already perforated it a little bit with... It keeps my autistic daughter in. I've already perforated it a little bit with a pair of scissors, so it should just snap cleanly in half. Put them together like that. You're going to get your trusty hot glue gun that you've had since your marriage 10 years ago. Oh, I'm going to knock us all over. Here we go. Okay. Didn't move my little scrap paper so I don't ruin my counters again. So you're going to put a very forgiving amount of hot glue on this. Like, I'm talking a ton. Keep swirling as you are adding it so it's not going to blop all over your counter. Okay. I just stick it here on my circle like that. I have been batch making these. That's probably why I'm half insane. So I've been so busy making these that I don't have time to hold these. I have found a little cheap dollar store funnel. Works great. Just thread it over the end of your shish kebab stick. Get it to sit about straight up and down. And you're golden until your hot glue dries. While that is drying, we're going to talk about our leaves. So anywhere on the internet, if you search giant paper flowers, that's actually where I loosely got some of my information from. A lot of it's guesswork. A lot of it's just kind of trial by fire, trial by error. I purchased these ones. I think it was a $5 plan. I couldn't honestly tell you where I even got them from. So I can't share these because I purchased them and in the purchasing, I agreed that I wouldn't share them for free. But if I do find the link for where I purchased this from, these are actually originally a plan for peonies, for crepe paper flowers. And it gives you 3 petals that you can use. So a large one, small one, and then a little tiny one for the inside. I've had good results using these for tulips also. I have found a lot of the flower petal forms that you might use. You can reuse them with varying degrees of how much you want to angle them, which I'm going to show you later in the video. So even though something says peony, or it might say, sorry, peonies for some people, peony for me. I'm from the Midwest and from the coast. But even if it says peony specifically or rose specifically or something else specifically, depending on how much you use your imagination, you might be able to get to work for other things. I've used these for tulips, where I've just changed the trajectory of them. I can show you this one because I personally made this one. I'm not going to sue myself. This is my daisy one. If you look at photos of flowers, you can kind of get an idea for what shape you want them to cut. That's my daughter. Sorry. What shape you want them to cut out of. So I just free-handed this one. It made, oh, I'll take you over there. It made a huge daisy. Like that. So this little guy was my form for him. So you can kind of just honestly freelance the majority of what you want. Even getting a photo of your favorite flowers or the flowers you're trying to achieve, just go buy those and kind of freelance it and have fun. I cut this on something thick. I think it was a piece of wrapper or something. Okay, so that's the daisy one. Sorry if that does not make sense. My kids were yelling at me halfway through. So just cut those by hand. Stronger cardstock, really any kind of thin cardboard would even work. Just something that you're not going to lose easily. Okay, these ones were my echinaceas, and I used them for something else, but I don't remember what they were. I think I mostly use them for echinaceas. I usually, for those kind of flowers, will cut a big one and then kind of an identical, smaller, shorter one. I'm sorry if you hear my daughter whining in the background. One of the biggest recommendations I can definitely give when you are cutting your own flower forms is we've saved a lot of money by being able to utilize 8x11, so legal letter size sheets of cardstock. This is just good old run-of-the-mill colored cardstock that you might get at Staples or at Walmart. I've gotten a lot of mine at Walmart. If you can cut your petals down to fit to your 11x8, you save so much time and cost. So my daisy one, it says cut 12 because you'll use 12 of these little forms or 12 of these little sheets. And mine fit on my piece of copy paper twice. So I don't have a ton of waste, which is really handy. So one way that you can save yourself a lot of time is batch cutting. I usually have good results up to about, I would say 4 to 5 sheets, that it's not looking too rough around the edges. Obviously we're going to be using 6 sheets of this magenta paper today to make a big magenta colored Cosmo is what I'm going to be making today. Kind of looks like a daisy, kind of looks like a Cosmo, but so let me go ahead and get started. Start with 4. Let's see how 6 just go together. One way you can keep your paper from moving around on you is you can staple the kind of void areas that you know you're not going to utilize. I am an autism parent, couldn't tell you where my staple gun is, so I'm just going to do it this way. I'm going to pause and come right back. Okay, I'm halfway through. Do not fret. If while you're cutting these, I did 6 pages thick. It's for Vacation Bible School. I am not going for perfection. Also, God didn't make flowers to be exactly the same as they were created. So when you cut them out, they're not, perfectly on, look at this. They're not perfectly on track with your little form. It doesn't really matter. Even when I was cutting all 6, they didn't cut exactly the same width. As long as you get them close, it's really not going to kill anything, I promise. So, you can round out the petals a little bit to kind of give them more of a rounded edge petal shape. So, set those aside. Do your other side. I'll come right back when they're cut out. Okay. There's the end of that. See, they're not perfect by any means. Don't kill yourself trying to get them perfect or exactly, on par for what shape they are supposed to be. It doesn't really matter. Save you patience for something else. So, I don't have it on my grid, but I usually will kind of line these up. Give it a little bit of French. I will usually line these up, so this one's 6 deep. And cut about, oh gosh, I would say 2.5 to 3 inch slice in the bottom. Just like that. Set those off to the side and do the other ones. Okay, so the reason, and again, eyeball it, it doesn't really matter. If you want to be very specific to make sure everything looks identically, absolutely, I would say 2.5 inches is a good place to probably aim for. I've just done this so many times, I don't really care to make it look absolutely perfect. So the reason you're going to do that, so separate, make sure your things are separated. Get your handy glue gun. Give it a little bit of a bead that goes down like that. You're going to ever so slightly overlap and pinch that closed. You want it to be just a little bit flexed. Might have actually done that too much, but that's okay. You can kind of bend your paper to soften it. You're going to do this to all of your petals. So I'll show you 2 more and then I'm gonna skip ahead. So put a little bit of glue, and I'm talking, it's just a little bit of overlap. I don't think you can see that. Little bit of overlap. Just like so. That gives you just a tiny bit of flex. So what I was talking earlier in the other petals, the ones I can't give you because I paid for them, you would cut them deeper. So you'd probably cut them, I don't know, 4 inches deep. And you would make that a really significant bend to where the overlap is almost flat like such. So then you have a tulip petal, not just a little bit of a outward, you know, energy moving up petal. You would have a really tight, really stiff up, and you can even curve these a little bit if you want to play with them and move them a little bit, or take a shish kebab skewer and roll them. I've seen people have good success with that as well. So when I was speaking earlier about how you can use different petals to make different flowers, that's a lot of the fluctuation you can use and adapt to get a different result. But I'll show you one more and then I'll skip ahead. So little ball of glue, and then just a tiny bit of overlap. And once you've done this approximately 4 million times, it will become second knowledge. Just like so. Okay, I'm back. So got all of these, let me grab them. Got all these slightly bent. I'm going to leave them in a nice little stack right here for me to be able to reach. So now that you've spent that time doing that, we're going to have little scraps of paper everywhere. Now that you've had your time doing that, this should have had enough time to dry and get solid. Yes. So nice and sturdy. It would take a lot to really yard that out of there. So I'm pretty satisfied that it should last a while. Okay, so to start building your flowers, if you're starting out, you haven't developed the bag of junk as I have, but any scraps of pieces of green paper, you're going to want to hold on to those. They're pretty handy to have, especially in the course of making flowers. I'm getting creative at dodging my daughter. Okay, so you can hear their bride playing in the background. So you're going to take your little round with your peg in it. This is actually just plain old green copy paper. It was an accidental purchase because we thought it was cardstock. Turned out to be a blessing in disguise. So you're going to take your regular sheet, cut a little slit right in the center. I'm sorry if I go really fast for you guys. My brain is just on it. So use your hot glue gun, give it a good amount of glue all the way webbed all over the center. Feed that guy down over the top. Push down nice and firm so everything adheres. All right. Wow, is that gonna work? I need a mug. I've been using a cup to set my projects in. I didn't grab a deep enough cup. Husband's Traveler will have to do. So you want something deep enough that you can set this on so you have a nice working base. Like that. Alright, so what you're going to do is you're going to take your extra and you're going to fold it over and glue it onto the top. This covers this unattractive edge. I wasn't doing this in the first handful of flowers I did. Really regretted that later because it looks a little bit funny if you're really looking for the fault. So, I give it a little bit of glue. Flip. If you're not burning yourself, it's not children's ministry. Okay, and you're just going to keep bending it up and popping it over the top and gluing it down. I'll catch you in just a second. Okay, so I've gone around and just have folded and bent it all the way around the top and glued it down so it will stay on there. So you should have a nice solid green bottom, which is really pretty. But we're also going to be dressing that up a little bit more later. So what you will be doing now, well actually, this is a wide enough cup. We'll dress up the bottom first. So you're going to take your handy bag of reject pieces. Some of this is crepe paper, which you by no means need. I got it off of Temu for dirt cheap, a while ago. And it is kind of nice because the crepe paper is crinkled. So any stray bits that you have that are weird shaped, these are all the rejects or the leftovers from when I cut out leaves for a different project. I just saved them all thinking maybe I'll use them. Here I am. So you're going to give it a little bit of greenery, especially around the stem, because you want to hide where that PVC is going to come in and hold your flower up. So I'm just stretching these out and kind of wrinkling them up and sticking them right on the glue. They do not have to be perfect. They do not even have to be really all that pretty. Odd jagged angles, odd jagged cuts are actually perfect for this because that's kind of what we get in creation, that it's just kind of ruffly pieces. So there we go. You can see that. That is my little minion running around. So I'm going to just kind of jazz up the bottom of it and kind of show you how that looks at the very end. But one thing I will always say...
I have big ears.
Oh, wow. One thing I will... That's my daughter. She has apparently ball ears. You know, sometimes points and stuff do help. But always crumple if you're using cardstock to fill up a space. Do you want to see? Say hi.
Hi.
So, if you're filling up a space of cardstock, always crumple.
And all is perfect.
Okay. Always crumple it up so it kind of has that more of that leaf design. But let me kind of just dress up the bottom of this guy.
And you have green paper.
Yeah. Okay. Now I'm back. So don't throw too much time at the bottom. It's really just not going to be very visible. It's mostly for the back side of the flowers that are going to be, you know, behind the ones that you can see. So you want it to look nice, but don't invest a bunch of hours on this. The way I am holy cow, there was a lot of hot glue. The way that I am adhering this, like, they're just weird pieces and scraps that I'm crunching up and then kind of just gathering and then flare out the bottom, like you're bending it almost like you want it to stand up, like that. So there's a little bend. So there's my bend. I'm putting hot glue on that bend there and then just sticking it. If you do have a hot glue gun similar to mine, mine's absolutely ancient. It's been with me a long time. I always use the low setting for paper flowers. It makes it dry a lot quicker, so you're not having to wait around with your hands on stuff. Okay, so now, hopefully I don't glue this to my husband's mug. He's dealt with worse. We're going to set this right side up. So, and we're going to start building the flower component. So, let me pull this down where you can see. you're going to take your beautiful petals you just made, and where it flattens out right before your bend, you're going to put a pretty liberal amount of glue there. And then we're going to stick, I kind of just guess if I'm, ooh, that's hot. I'm going to be real honest, I just kind of guess where I place them at the very beginning. You just fake it till you make it and they end up looking great. But for you to be able to see my placement, it's, I would say, on that nice edge there. But just make the first one with no inclination that it's going to turn out perfect and learn from what you did. All right, so now you're going to do that again, preferably not burn your fingers. And then you're going to overlap them just a tiny bit. I will show you close up what I mean. So here's my base. About half of my new petal is overlapping my other one, maybe a third or so, because here's probably the end of my first petal. Okay, I'm going to go around and I'm going to show you what that looks like. Okay, I'm about halfway point, just showing you, catching up what I'm doing. So your first one starts here. Just keep overlapping just a little bit. You'll kind of see where your little cut was. That'll kind of almost give you a guide of where to put your next one. Spat it up right against that cut. So another good inclination of as to where to place your first petals is right here. I don't know if I can show that with one hand. Oh, here we go. Right here where that bend is, you want it off the edge of your plate just a little bit. Okay, we're gonna prop this up. Oops. I'm gonna prop this up and give you a bird's eye view of what we're working with here. Maybe? Oh my goodness. Okay, I think that kind of works. So I've gone around and around and around. I'm going to add my last flower petal here. It's going to kind of stack on top of the beginning one and the last one. So you're gonna have kind of an awkward break right here. And then you're going to you'll have either 2 or 3 left over depending on how big your plate is. I started originally with 12. I just kind of disperse them kind of in a clock formation around each other. Like so. Burning my fingers. I make sure that they're kind of higgledy-piggledy on top of each other like such, that they're not just stacked. Okay. Okay, so remember your inside's looking like this. So now I am going to use, this is some yellow crepe paper I still just have floating around. If you don't have yellow crepe paper, don't freak out. Just use cardstock. It's going to work the same exact way how I'm going to do this. You're going to cut strips, I would say about 1.5 to 2 inches wide, depending on how fluffy you want that center. And they're probably about 2 inches wide. I'm always a bad guess on that. And it doesn't matter if they're all kind of different widths, just as long as they're close. Okay, I stack mine like such. And if you are using crepe paper, let me tilt you a little so you can actually see what I'm doing. If you are using crepe paper, make sure before you do the next step, you give that a pull. You pull all that crimp out. So I stack these like such. I fold the entire long piece in half, like so. And then sometimes I even stack it again. So it's just kind of a consolidated piece. Take your scissors, and you're gonna cut about halfway through that stack. You've been with me for any amount of time, you know that's my daughter yelling in the background, and I'm sorry already. So you're gonna just cut through this over and over and over again, just a little bit. Don't cut all the way through it. You want to have that fold on the back side. So I'm just doing little bits. Okay, unstack. And then what you're gonna do once you unstack it a little bit is give it a squish. About like such. All right, now you pull your pieces apart. Refold them how you had them folded to cut them. So refold. And then you're just gonna kind of gather this up. It doesn't have to be tight knit. You honestly can't see really anything through all the fluttery goodness. Helps if you actually just stack it before you're trying to bunch it, but all right. You'll end up with like a little bunched up cinnamon bun. Give that a big dollop of glue. Make sure you get both ends covered in glue, like such. And you're going to take the middle, I'm burning my fingers, the middle of your flower and pop that right on there. So the reason that you do want your hot glue gun to dry quickly on the low setting is because of things like this. You don't want to be standing here having to hold this for 5 minutes while it's deciding to dry or not. So the very middle, I like to make sure is rolled up like a little cinnamon roll. But then once I have that center of flour, I just kind of mishmash. So let me show you. So I'll take longer chunks and just kind of bunch them together. Like so. And like so. Yep. So that's kind of a long, narrow strip. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter at all. Give it a lot of glue. And now we're going to stick that in just kind of parallel to that centerpiece. All right, I'm going to do that a couple more times and I'll come right back for you. Okay, another piece. Another good round of glue. My shirt says fueled by Jesus and coffee, but it really should, for this circumstance, be saying fueled by Jesus and hot glue. Just going to stick it parallel in there. And you know the drill again. And again. Lots of hot glue right on the very bottom so it stands straight up. Your goal is to get enough that you're covering where your flower petals are coming onto your board. So I probably need 1, 2, at least 2 more. Sometimes I might do 3 if I think it looks better that way. Almost forgot, it was zoning, but here's another piece. It'll stick right in. Okay, so I have gone around through, it took, I think 4 layers, I want to say, but just keep playing with it until you're satisfied with what you got. If there is any little gaps that you are able to see the cardboard through, just kind of fluff it with your fingers. If you put a sufficient amount of hot glue on there, it should hold fine. Let's give it a good little fluff. Pull off any little strings of hot glue or leave them like my lazy stinking butt does. And then you should have a super pretty bottom that can be dealt with. All right, let's go hang. Whoa, sorry. Let's go hang it up and go see what we're working with. We're gonna pop one out and see. Oh my gosh, she's tough one-handed. So you'll kind of spread the little cover for your stems and snap it right on there. Turns out super clean. Can't really see where it begins and where it ends. I have not bent that stem yet, so you can't really quite see it, but super cute and super tall. Thanks so much, you guys. Have a wonderful day.